Part 1. The Silent Species. The stars looked the same as they always had, cold and distant, but Captain Hyunwoo knew that tonight would change everything. He stood on the bridge of the Wanderer, humanity's first true deep space exploration vessel, and watched the swirling colors of hyperspace fade away. They had traveled farther than any human had ever gone before. This was the moment they had trained for, the moment Earth had dreamed about for centuries. First contact. Dr. Minji rushed to her station, her eyes bright with excitement. She had spent her entire life studying the possibility of alien life, and now that possibility was about to become reality. The sensors had detected something massive ahead, something that could only be artificial. A structure, perhaps a station, floating in the darkness between stars. The communication officer turned to Hyunwoo with a nervous expression. "Captain, we're receiving a signal. It's not in any language we know, but the pattern suggests intelligence. They know we're here." Hyunwoo took a deep breath. Ambassador Daeho stepped forward, adjusting his formal uniform. He had been chosen to speak for all of humanity at this moment. "Open a channel. Let me speak to them." The view screen flickered to life, and for the first time in human history, people looked upon an alien face. The creature was tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. Its eyes were large and dark, filled with something that Hyunwoo couldn't quite identify at first. Then he realized what it was. Fear. Daeho smiled warmly and began his carefully prepared speech. "Greetings from the people of Earth. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. We are new to the stars, and we hope to learn from those who came before us." The alien stared at them for a long moment. Its mouth opened, and a translator device rendered its words into choppy English. "Humans, you are humans from Earth. This is not possible. You should not be here. You do not have this technology." Minji leaned forward, curious about the strange response. "We developed faster than light travel only recently. We're explorers, scientists. We mean no harm." The alien's expression shifted to something close to panic. "Stay where you are. Do not approach. Do not move." The screen went black. Hyunwoo exchanged confused glances with his crew. What just happened? Why would they react like that? Before anyone could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. The tactical officer shouted over the noise. "Captain! Multiple ships are appearing around us. They're surrounding our position." "Weapons are charging!" Ambassador Daeho raised his hands in a calming gesture. "There must be some misunderstanding. We need to communicate clearly. We are not a threat," but the alien ships did not fire. Instead, they held their position, forming a perfect sphere around the Wanderer. The communication channel opened again, but this time it was a different voice, deeper and more authoritative. "Vessel from Earth, you are ordered to shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded. You will not resist. Any hostile action will result in your immediate destruction. You have 30 seconds to comply." Hyunwoo felt his heart sink. This was not how first contact was supposed to happen. In all the simulations, all the planning, they had imagined scenarios ranging from cautious welcome to curious investigation. They had never imagined immediate hostility from beings who seemed terrified of them. "Stand down all weapons," Hyunwoo ordered quietly. "Power down the engines. We'll do as they ask." The boarding was swift and efficient. Alien soldiers in sleek armor escorted the crew to a massive warship that made the Wanderer look like a child's toy. They were separated into small groups and led through corridors that curved in impossible ways, lit by lights that hurt human eyes. Minji found herself in a small cell with a transparent wall. She could see other crew members in similar cells nearby. One of the guards remained outside her cell, and unlike the others, this one seemed less rigid, more curious. It was one of the same species as the first alien they had seen. A Valorn, she later learned. "Why are we being treated as prisoners?" Minji asked, keeping her voice calm and non-threatening. "We've done nothing wrong." The guard tilted its head, considering her question. After a moment, it spoke. "You truly do not understand, do you? Your species is known to us. We have watched your world for a very long time. Then you know we're capable of reason. We're capable of peace." The guard made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We know what you are capable of. That is precisely why you are here. The Concordat is meeting now to decide your fate, the fate of your entire species." Minji felt a chill run through her. The Concordat? "The alliance of 17 civilizations that govern this part of the galaxy. We have maintained peace for over 10,000 years. We have rules, laws, ways of preventing war, and then we see your history. The guard activated a device and holographic images appeared between them. Minji watched in horror as Earth's darkest moments played out before her eyes. The world wars with their trenches and bombs and millions dead. Nuclear explosions turning cities to ash. Chemical weapons choking soldiers in toxic clouds. Environmental destruction on a scale that reshaped the planet. And through it all, humanity's relentless expansion. Consuming resources, fighting over territory, never satisfied, never stopping. This is your species, the guard said quietly. In the time it took you to achieve spaceflight, you nearly destroyed yourselves 3 times. You created weapons capable of ending all life on your world, and you came within minutes of using them. You are violent, aggressive, and adaptable. You are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. That's not fair, Minji protested. You're only showing our worst moments. We've also created art, music, literature. We've built civilizations. We've learned from our mistakes, have you? The guard gestured to the images. Your most recent conflict ended only 60 years ago. You are still one species divided into competing nations. You still maintain armies. You still build weapons. The Concordat has not seen true war in 10 millennia. We have evolved beyond such barbarism, but you are still savages with starships. In another part of the massive vessel, Ambassador Daiho stood before a council of alien beings. They sat in a circular chamber, each representing a different species, and all of them looked at him with the same expression, fear mixed with disgust. The central figure, a being that looked like crystallized light, spoke with a voice that resonated in multiple frequencies. Human representative, we have reviewed your species' history. The evidence is clear. Humanity represents a Category Omega threat to galactic stability. Never before have we encountered a species that wages war with such intensity, such creativity, such ruthlessness. Your weapons, your tactics, your willingness to sacrifice your own people for victory. These things are unknown to us. Daiho stepped forward, his voice strong despite the fear gnawing at his stomach. Honorable council members, we acknowledge our violent past. But that is exactly what it is, our past. We have come to the stars seeking peace, seeking to join the galactic community. We can learn from you. We can become better. Another council member, reptilian in appearance, hissed softly. You misunderstand. It is not your violence that frightens us. It is your potential. In 5,000 years of civilization, you achieved what took most species 50,000. Your technology advances at a rate we consider impossible. Your ability to adapt, to overcome obstacles, to survive against all odds. These traits make you uniquely dangerous. If we allow you to continue unchecked, in 1,000 years you will dominate this galaxy, and we cannot allow that. The crystalline being raised what might have been a hand. The vote is called. All in favor of immediate quarantine protocols for the human species. Indicate now. One by one, every member of the council indicated their agreement. The vote was unanimous. It is decided. Humanity will be confined to its solar system indefinitely. A blockade will be established.
Any attempt to leave will be met with force.
Additionally, we will travel to Earth to present our demands directly to your leaders. They will disarm. They will submit to observation. Or they will be eliminated. Daiho felt the weight of those words crushing down on him. You can't do this. You can't imprison an entire species for crimes we might commit in the future. We can, and we will. It is for the good of the galaxy. As Daiho was led away, he looked back at the council and saw not wisdom but fear. They were terrified of humanity, and that terror would dictate their actions. He thought of Earth, unaware of what was coming, unprepared for the judgment that had been passed upon them. Far away, in his cell, Hyunwoo watched through a viewport as the Concordat fleet assembled. Hundreds of warships, each one powerful enough to destroy cities, and all of them were heading for Earth. The war that would shake the galaxy was about to begin, whether humanity wanted it or not. Part 2. The First Shot Admiral. Jinho stood in the command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching the screens that showed the approaching alien fleet. 300 warships, each one kilometers long, moving toward Earth in perfect formation. They would arrive in less than 24 hours. Behind him, military officers from every nation worked frantically, coordinating defenses that everyone knew would likely be inadequate. How bad is it? Asked Councillor Borum, who had just arrived, from the emergency session of Earth's unified government. Her face was pale, her hands shaking slightly. Jinho turned to face her, his expression grim. Their weapons can vaporize continents. Our best estimates say that if they decide to attack, humanity could be extinct within a week. Maybe less. Borum closed her eyes, steadying herself. Then we have no choice, we must accept their terms. Their terms are slavery, Jinho said flatly. Complete disarmament, genetic monitoring to prevent what they call aggressive evolution, permanent confinement to the solar system. We would be prisoners on our own world and they would control every aspect of our future, but we would survive. Would we? What happens when they decide we're still too dangerous? What happens in 100 years when they think we might break free? Counselor, I've studied history. Oppressed people eventually rebel, and when we do, they'll have all the justification they need to wipe us out completely. Lieutenant Sora entered the command center, still wearing her flight suit. She had just returned from a patrol mission, flying one of Earth's newest starfighters. Admiral, the fleet is ready. All pilots are on standby. Jinho nodded. Sora was young, barely 25, but she was the best pilot he had ever seen. Fast, clever, and absolutely fearless. Good work, Lieutenant. Stay close. I may need you soon. The hours passed slowly. Scientists worked desperately on last-minute weapon upgrades. Diplomats prepared speeches they hoped would never be delivered. Families huddled together, wondering if they would see another sunrise. The world held its breath. When the Concordate fleet arrived, it was even more terrifying than expected. The ships blocked out the stars, casting shadows across entire hemispheres. Earth's orbital defense platforms looked like toys in comparison. The aliens established a position beyond the moon and sent a single message. Send Ambassador Deho to our flagship. We will present our terms. Deho arrived at the alien vessel via shuttle, escorted by 6 warships that made it clear he was not there by choice. The council chamber was the same as before, but now their expressions held not just fear, but certainty. They believed they had already won, the crystalline being spoke first. Ambassador Daiho, your government will accept the following terms immediately. All nuclear weapons will be dismantled within 30 days. All military spacecraft will be surrendered to Concordate forces. Humanity will submit to genetic therapy to reduce aggressive tendencies. Earth's population will be monitored indefinitely. Any refusal will result in orbital bombardment of your major population centers. You have 6 hours to respond. Daiho felt sick. The genetic therapy alone would fundamentally change what it meant to be human. These terms are unacceptable. You're asking us to stop being who we are. Exactly. That is the point. Back on Earth, Counselor Borum sat in the emergency government chamber, surrounded by representatives from every nation. The debate was fierce. Some argued for acceptance, saying that survival was all that mattered. Others demanded resistance, even if it meant extinction. The vote was close, but in the end, survival won. Borum sent the message herself, her voice breaking as she spoke. On behalf of Earth's unified government, we accept the Concordate's terms. We will begin disarmament immediately. Admiral Jinho received the message in his command center. He read it twice, then quietly deleted it. Around him, officers looked at him with questions in their eyes. "Sir?" one of them asked hesitantly. "What are your orders?" Jinho turned to face them, and they saw something in his eyes that made them understand. He was not going to surrender. Activate Operation Thunder. All units, proceed to battle stations. Prepare to engage the enemy. Admiral, the government has ordered us to stand down. The government is thinking about today. I'm thinking about tomorrow. If we surrender now, humanity will never be free. Our children will live as slaves. Our grandchildren will be modified and controlled. Eventually, we'll be eliminated anyway. At least this way, we go down fighting. In orbit above Earth, Concordate ships began deploying occupation forces. Massive transports descended toward the major cities, carrying soldiers and monitoring equipment. The aliens were confident. Why wouldn't they be? Humanity had surrendered. The war was over before it began. That's when the attack started. From hidden positions throughout the solar system, weapons that weren't supposed to exist suddenly activated. Railgun platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites opened fire, sending hypervelocity projectiles into the alien fleet. Nuclear mines positioned years ago by paranoid military planners who imagined exactly this scenario, detonated in carefully calculated patterns. Stealth frigates built in secret shipyards on the dark side of the moon emerged from hiding and launched missiles. The Concordate fleet reeled. Shields that had been designed to withstand energy weapons proved vulnerable to simple kinetic impacts. Ships that had been deployed for occupation rather than battle found themselves under attack from all directions. Alarms blared. Shields flickered and failed. In the first 60 seconds of combat, humanity destroyed 12 alien warships. Sora launched from her hidden base on one of Saturn's moons, leading a squadron of 40 starfighters. They were tiny compared to the alien vessels, gnats attacking elephants, but Jinho had chosen his pilots well. They didn't fight fair. "Remember your training," Sora said calmly over the comm channel. "These ships are powerful, but they're slow. Use that against them. Hit and run. Make them chase you into the rings. Don't give them an easy target." Her squadron scattered, each pilot executing maneuvers that would have been impossible for the larger alien craft. They fired missiles in patterns designed to overwhelm point defense systems, then disappeared into Saturn's rings before the enemy could retaliate. When the alien ships pursued, they found themselves navigating a maze of ice and rock at speeds their vessels weren't designed for. Several collided with ring particles, their shields overwhelmed by countless small impacts. Sora personally led an attack on one of the Concordate's command ships, a massive vessel that coordinated the fleet's movements. She flew directly at it, launching every missile she had, then pulling up at the last possible second. The missiles overwhelmed the ship's defenses and explosions blossomed along its hull. The ship listed to one side, venting atmosphere, its communications array destroyed. Back at the command center, Jinho watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Status report. We've destroyed 47 enemy vessels and damaged over 100 more. Our losses are 30% of deployed forces. The enemy is retreating to a position beyond Mars. Beyond Mars? Jinho smiled coldly. They're regrouping. They didn't expect resistance. They especially didn't expect to be hurt this badly. One of the officers looked troubled. "Sir, we caught them off guard, but they still have overwhelming numbers. When they come back, they'll be ready for us. Let them come ready. We'll adapt. That's what humans do." On the Concordate flagship, chaos reigned. The council members who had been so confident now shouted at each other in multiple languages. The crystalline being's light flickered erratically, showing its agitation. "How is this possible?" one council member demanded. "They surrendered. They agreed to our terms." "Their military acted independently," another responded. "These humans do not have true unity. They are fractured, unpredictable. They destroyed 50 of our ships. 50. We haven't lost a single vessel to hostile action in 3,000 years, and these primitives destroyed 50 in one battle." The reptilian council member hissed loudly, demanding attention. "I warned you. I told you these humans were dangerous. Look at their tactics. They don't fight the way civilized species fight. They use ambushes, deception, sacrifice. They turned their own moon into a weapon. They hid military assets disguised as civilian infrastructure. They prepared for war while pretending to seek peace." "What do we do now?" asked a smaller council member, its voice frightened. The crystalline being's light steadied, becoming hard and cold. "We do what we should have done from the beginning. We eradicate them completely. Send the message to all Concordate worlds. Request every available warship. Humanity has proven itself to be everything we feared. They must be eliminated, and we must do it before they become any stronger." The declaration went out across the galaxy. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Concordate was calling for total war. Thousands of ships began the journey to human space, carrying weapons and soldiers from 17 different civilizations, all united by a single emotion: fear. On Earth, people celebrated what they thought was a victory. They cheered in the streets, proud that humanity had stood up to the aliens. But Jinho knew better. He stood alone in the command center, watching the enemy fleet regroup in the distance. Councillor Borum stormed in, her face red with anger. "What have you done? We surrendered. We could have survived." Part 3, the galaxy mobilizes. The message spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Concordat, the ancient alliance that had maintained peace for 10 millennia, was calling for total war. 17 civilizations mobilized their fleets. Shipyards that had built nothing but cargo vessels for centuries suddenly remembered how to construct warships. Training facilities reopened. Old weapons were brought out of storage and upgraded with new technology. General Taiyang walked through the underground bunkers beneath Seoul, inspecting the preparations. Millions of civilians had already moved into the massive shelter network that stretched beneath every major city on Earth. The tunnels went down for kilometers, designed to survive anything except a direct hit from a planet-killing weapon, which, Taiyang thought grimly, the aliens probably had. "How many people can we shelter?" he asked his second-in-command. "Approximately 4 billion in the primary shelters, another 2 billion in secondary locations. The rest will have to take their chances on the surface." Taiyang nodded slowly. "Half of humanity at best. What about the colonies?" "Mars is fortifying Olympus Mons. Europa Station has gone dark. They're hiding beneath the ice. Titan Base is preparing for siege. None of them can hold out for long if the enemy commits to attacking them. Then we make sure the enemy stays focused on Earth. We're the prize they want. We're the threat they fear." In orbit, Admiral Jinho coordinated with defense forces across the solar system. The first battle had cost them dearly. Only 30% of his stealth frigates remained operational. The railgun platforms were nearly out of ammunition. The nuclear mines were depleted. But the enemy didn't know that. Not yet. A communication channel opened, and Jinho was surprised to see Captain Hyunwoo's face appear on the screen. The explorer looked tired and ragged but alive. "Captain, I thought you were a prisoner on the Concordat flagship." Hyunwoo smiled slightly. "We escaped. Long story, but we had help from one of the Valorn guards." He didn't agree with what the Concordat was doing. "Admiral, I'm transmitting data to you now. Everything we learned about their ships, their weapons, their tactics." The data flooded into the command center's computers. Jinho's tactical officers began analyzing it immediately, their eyes widening at what they found. "This is incredible," one officer said. "Their shields regenerate slowly. If we can hit them with sustained fire, we can overwhelm them. And look at this. Their capital ships need 3 full minutes to recharge their main weapons." Jinho studied the information carefully. 3 minutes. That's an eternity in combat. So if we can force them to fire, then hit them during the recharge period, we could even the odds. Hyunwoo finished. "Admiral, there's something else. The Concordat isn't unified anymore. Some species are questioning whether this war is necessary. The Valorn in particular, they're starting to doubt. If we could somehow communicate with them, show them we're not the monsters the Concordat claims we are." "Right now, Captain, we need to focus on survival, but I'll keep that in mind. Get yourself and your crew to Mars. We're consolidating forces there." Far beneath Earth's surface, Dr. Yuna worked in a laboratory that officially didn't exist. Around her, scientists and engineers labored on projects that pushed the boundaries of physics and ethics. She stood before a holographic display showing her latest design, an antimatter warhead small enough to fit in a stealth probe, but powerful enough to destroy a capital ship. "The problem," she explained to the military observers, "is containment. Antimatter annihilates regular matter on contact. We need magnetic fields to keep it stable, and those fields need power. If the power fails for even a microsecond, the warhead detonates prematurely." "How many can you build?" asked the senior observer. "With current resources? Maybe 50, but we'd need at least a month. You have 2 weeks. Yuna wanted to protest that it was impossible, but she had learned that nothing was impossible anymore. "We'll need every available physicist and all the antimatter from the particle accelerators. You'll have it. Whatever you need. This is humanity's priority." On the Mars colony, Lieutenant Sora trained new pilots. The battle near Saturn had made her famous. Her face was on recruitment posters across the solar system. Young people wanted to be like her, wanted to fight like she had fought. She wished they understood the reality of what they were volunteering for. "Listen carefully," she told the group of recruits gathered around her fighter.
In the last battle, my squadron started with 40 fighters.
Only 12 of us made it back. The aliens are slow and predictable, but they're not stupid. They're learning. Next time we face them, they'll be ready for our tactics." One recruit, barely 18, raised his hand. "Lieutenant, are we going to win?" Sora looked at him for a long moment. She thought about lying, about giving him hope. But these people deserve the truth. I don't know. But I know we're going to make them pay for every meter of space they take from us. And maybe if we're lucky and clever and willing to sacrifice everything, we might survive. Now let's get back to training. You've got a lot to learn. Across the galaxy, the Concordate fleet assembled. It was the largest gathering of military force in recorded history. 5,000 warships representing 17 different civilizations, each one more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. They gathered at a staging point 50 light-years from Earth, preparing for the journey that would end the human threat forever. But unity was beginning to crack. On one of the Velorn vessels, dissent was spreading. The guard who had helped Hyunwoo escape, whose name was difficult for humans to pronounce, spoke quietly with others of his kind. "We have become what we claim to despise," he said. "We are waging a war of extinction against a species that has done nothing to us except exist." "Is this truly what the Concordate stands for?" "They are dangerous," another Velorn argued. "You saw their history. They are violent and aggressive. So we destroy them before they have a chance to change? Before they have a chance to prove they can be better? That is not justice. That is genocide driven by fear." The debate spread throughout the Velorn ships, but it remained quiet. To speak out openly would mean being labeled a traitor, and yet doubt had taken root. If the Velorn were questioning the war, perhaps other species were as well. Back on Earth, Counselor Borum received reports from intelligence services. What she learned shocked her. "You're telling me that some alien species are opposed to this war?" The intelligence director nodded. "We're picking up encrypted communications that suggest significant internal dissent. Not enough to stop the fleet, but enough to create complications for the Concordate leadership. Can we exploit this? Perhaps. But we'd need to make contact with the dissenting factions, and we'd need to convince them that we're worth saving." Borum thought carefully. She had been angry at Jinho for starting the war, but now she was beginning to understand his reasoning. What if we could broadcast something to the galaxy? Show them who we really are, not just our worst moments? What did you have in mind? 3 days later, transmissions began broadcasting from Earth in every known alien language. They showed humanity's achievements: art, music, science, philosophy. They showed human families, human kindness, human love. They showed people helping each other after disasters, building communities, creating beauty in a harsh universe. The message was simple: we are more than our weapons. The Concordate tried to jam the transmissions, but humanity had learned to be clever. They bounced the signals off navigation beacons, off commercial satellites, off any relay they could access. The message reached millions of alien civilians who had never thought much about the distant humans before. On the Concordate flagship, the Council watched the transmissions with growing alarm. "This is propaganda," the crystalline being declared. "They are trying to manipulate us." But even as it spoke, reports came in of protests on some Concordate worlds. Small at first, but growing. People questioning the war. People asking why they were about to commit genocide. "We need to move faster," the Reptilian Council member hissed. "Every day we delay, they grow stronger and our own unity weakens. Give the order. The fleet attacks in 48 hours. Dr. Yuna worked without sleep, driven by desperation and vast quantities of caffeine. Around her, exhausted scientists assembled the antimatter warheads with shaking hands. One mistake would vaporize the entire facility and everyone in it. "No pressure. How many do we have?" asked Admiral Jinho, who had come to inspect the progress personally. 37 completed. 13 more in final assembly. "Admiral, these weapons are incredibly dangerous. If even one malfunctions during deployment..." "I understand the risks, but if we don't have them, we won't survive long enough to worry about malfunctions. Can you guarantee they'll work?" Yuna hesitated. Science didn't deal in guarantees. 95% confidence. Good enough. "We'll load them onto stealth probes immediately. Lieutenant Sora's squadron will handle deployment." When Sora received her orders, she read them twice to make sure she understood. "Fly into the enemy staging area 50 light-years away. Deploy antimatter weapons. Escape before the entire enemy fleet hunts you down." Simple. Absolutely suicidal, but simple. "You don't have to do this," Jinho told her privately. "I can order someone else." Part 4, The Siege of Earth, the stars disappeared. That was the first thing people on Earth noticed when the Concordate Armada arrived. 5,000 warships, each 1 kilometers long, formed a sphere around the planet so complete that the night sky turned black. No stars, no moon, just the faint glow of distant ship lights. It looked like the end of the world. In the command center, Admiral Jinho watched the tactical display with grim determination. The numbers were overwhelming. Every simulation they ran ended the same way. Total human extinction within 72 hours. But simulations didn't account for human stubbornness. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. The crystalline being's image appeared on the main screen, its light cold and merciless. "Humans of Earth, you have resisted our mercy. You have proven our fears correct. There will be no more negotiations. No more chances. Surrender now and we will make your end quick. Resist and we will make you suffer before we erase every trace of your species from existence." Jinho smiled coldly. "Tell them to come and try." The bombardment began immediately. Energy beams rained down from orbit, targeting every major city, every military installation, every human presence they could detect. Earth's orbital defense platforms fought back desperately, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. One by one, they were destroyed. In Seoul, General Taiyang gave the evacuation order. Millions of people fled into the underground shelters as the surface above them turned into an inferno. Buildings melted, streets vaporized. The city that had stood for thousands of years was being erased in minutes. All defensive positions. "Report status," Taiyang ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Sector 7 is gone. Sector 12 has lost contact. Sector 4 is holding but taking heavy casualties. Tell them to fall back to the secondary positions. Everyone into the deep shelters. We make our stand underground." Above Earth, the alien fleet methodically destroyed everything they could see. But they were careful, almost surgical. They weren't trying to destroy the planet itself, just remove the human infestation. They thought they were being merciful. Then Dr. Yuna's surprise activated. The moon, Earth's constant companion for billions of years, suddenly came alive. Massive railgun platforms that had been built into the lunar surface over the past decade emerged from their hiding places. The entire moon had been converted into a weapon, and now it fired. Hundreds of projectiles launched simultaneously, moving at relativistic speeds. From the moon to the enemy fleet in seconds. The aliens barely had time to react before the first impacts occurred. Capital ships that had survived for centuries exploded as hypervelocity rounds punched through their shields and hulls. Dozens of vessels died in the first salvo. The Concordat fleet reeled. They had known about some of Earth's defenses, but this was beyond anything they had imagined. The moon itself was a weapon. "Return fire. Destroy that moon!" screamed the Reptilian Council member. But the moon was already launching its second salvo, and its third. The ancient platforms fired until their ammunition was exhausted, until the lunar surface was scarred with the heat of their firing. By the time the enemy destroyed the last platform, over 200 alien warships had been eliminated. In the chaos, something else happened. Throughout the Concordat fleet, sabotage began. Human prisoners who had been captured during the first battle, kept aboard alien ships for study, suddenly activated. They had been waiting for this moment, preparing for it. They were scientists, engineers, diplomats, people who had never expected to be soldiers. But when your species faces extinction, everyone becomes a soldier. On the Valoran flagship, Dr. Minji worked frantically at a computer terminal she had been secretly accessing for weeks. She had learned the alien systems, studied their language, understood their protocols. Now she activated a virus she had designed, one that would spread through the Concordat fleet's communication network. "What are you doing?" asked the Valoran guard who had helped her, who had been watching her work with growing alarm. "Giving us a chance," Minji said quietly. "Your people need to see what this war really is. They need to see what they're doing." The virus activated, hijacking communication channels across the fleet. Instead of tactical data, ships suddenly received something else. Images from Earth, cities burning, children crying in shelters, families huddled together waiting for death, and then other images. The same families helping each other, protecting each other, showing courage and compassion even in the face of annihilation. The Valoran officer stared at the screen, his expression unreadable. "You are showing us your suffering to make us feel guilt. I'm showing you the truth. You claim we're monsters, but you're the ones killing billions of innocent people. Children who never harmed anyone. Artists who only wanted to create beauty. Scientists who only wanted to understand the universe. Are we really the monsters here?" Throughout the Concordat fleet, similar scenes played out. Some species dismissed the images as propaganda. But others, particularly the Velorn, began to question. In the quiet spaces between battles, doubts grew. On Earth, Lieutenant Sora's squadron returned from their mission. Only 4 fighters made it back. Sora's fighter was barely functional, held together with emergency patches and desperate hope. But the mission had succeeded. "Report," Admiral Jinho demanded. Sora climbed out of her cockpit, exhausted and injured. "We deployed all the antimatter warheads in their staging area. 50 warships destroyed, maybe more. The enemy fleet was scattered across 3 light-years of space. It slowed their advance by at least 12 hours. Good work, Lieutenant. Get to medical. We need you ready for the next battle." "There's more, Admiral. I saw something in the enemy fleet. Confusion. Ships not following orders. Some vessels even broke formation and withdrew. They're not as unified as they pretend to be." Jinho absorbed this information. It matched reports they were getting from other sources. The Concordat was fracturing. Then we exploit that weakness. We show them that this war is costing them more than they're willing to pay. The siege continued. Days blurred into each other. The aliens bombarded Earth's surface relentlessly, but humanity refused to surrender. Every time the enemy thought they had destroyed the last defense, another surprise activated. Hidden weapons, unexpected tactics, desperate courage. General Taeyang led the ground defense from deep beneath what used to be Seoul. Millions of soldiers and armed civilians prepared for the inevitable. Alien troops landing on Earth's surface. They had trained for this. They knew the terrain. They knew how to fight in the ruins of their own cities. "They'll send landing forces soon," Taeyang told his officers. "They're getting frustrated with orbital bombardment. They want to see proof that we're truly defeated. When they land, we show them what it means to fight humans on human ground." The landing came on the 7th day of the siege. Massive alien transports descended through the burning atmosphere, carrying thousands of troops. They landed in the ruins of major cities, expecting to find broken survivors ready to surrender. Instead, they found an ambush. Human forces emerged from the underground tunnels like ghosts. Soldiers who knew every street, every building, every possible hiding place. They hit the aliens with guerrilla tactics that had been perfected over centuries of human warfare. Snipers picked off officers from hidden positions. Explosives detonated under marching columns. Small units struck fast and disappeared before the enemy could respond. The aliens had superior technology, but they had never fought an enemy like this. An enemy that refused to meet them in open battle. An enemy that used their own environment as a weapon. An enemy that seemed to materialize from nowhere, strike, and vanish. In the ruins of New York, a young soldier named Kyung-min led a squad against an alien position. They had no heavy weapons, just rifles and determination. But they knew these streets. They knew which buildings were stable enough to hide in, which subway tunnels still had power, where to set up crossfire positions. "Remember," Kyung-min told the squad, "we're not trying to win. We're trying to make them bleed. Every alien we kill is one less they can use against us. Every minute we delay them is one more minute for our people to survive." The attack was swift and brutal. Kyung-min's squad eliminated the alien position in less than 3 minutes, then disappeared into the ruins before reinforcements arrived. The aliens found only bodies and booby traps. Reports of similar attacks came from all over the planet. The Concordat had expected quick victory once they landed. Instead, they were fighting a grinding, exhausting war against an enemy they couldn't even see clearly. Their casualties mounted. Their troops became nervous, jumping at shadows, afraid to advance into areas that looked like perfect ambush sites, which was everywhere in the ruined cities. On the Concordat flagship, the council met in emergency session. The war was not going as planned. They had lost over 400 ships. Their ground forces were taking unacceptable casualties. And worst of all, dissent was spreading through their ranks. "We need to end this now," the crystalline being declared. "Prepare the planet killer weapon. We will destroy Earth completely and be done with this nightmare." "No." The Valoran representative stood, shocking everyone. "I cannot support this. We came here to neutralize a threat, not commit genocide." Part 5. The Whisper That Echoes, the Concordat flagship. Eternal harmony hung in space above Earth like a promise of death. Inside its command center, the Council faced a decision that would shape the galaxy's future. The war had gone on for 3 weeks. 3 weeks that felt like an eternity. 3 weeks that had cost them over 600 warships and tens of thousands of soldiers. The crystalline being's light flickered with exhaustion. We cannot continue like this. Our people demand answers. Why are we losing ships to these primitives? Why have we not won? The Velorn representative spoke quietly. Perhaps because we underestimated them. Perhaps because they fight with a desperation we cannot match. Or perhaps because this war was wrong from the beginning. Heresy, hissed the Reptilian Council member. We voted. The decision was made, a decision based on fear, and fear has led us to this disaster. Lieutenant Sora led her squadron on what she thought would be her final mission. They had been ordered to attack the flagship itself, to strike at the heart of the enemy command structure. It was suicide, everyone knew it, but someone had to try. All fighters, this is Sora. Remember, we're not trying to destroy the flagship. We just need to damage it enough to make them think, hit the communication arrays, the sensor clusters, anything that will blind them temporarily. Her fighters dove toward the massive vessel. Weaving through defensive fire that lit up space like a deadly fireworks display, Sora's hands moved on the controls with practiced grace, dodging energy beams by centimeters, returning fire whenever she had a clear shot. They reached the flagship. Missiles launched. Explosions blossomed across the alien vessel's hull. And then something unexpected happened. The flagship's weapons stopped firing, not because they were damaged, but because someone had ordered them to hold fire. All human forces, cease fire. This is the Concordat Council. We request immediate negotiations. Sora pulled her fighter back, confused. Did they just ask for a ceasefire? Admiral Jinho's voice came over the comm channel. Confirmed. All units hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon. Sora, get back here. We need to figure out what's happening. On the flagship, the Council had finally fractured completely. The Velorn had withdrawn their support for the war. 3 other species had followed. The remaining Council members faced a terrible truth. They could not win this war without destroying themselves in the process. The humans will never surrender, the Velorn representative said. We have seen that clearly. They will fight until their last breath. If we continue, we will have to exterminate them completely. Can we live with that? Can we claim to be civilized while committing genocide? The crystalline being's light dimmed. What do you propose? We negotiate. We find a way to coexist. Or we prove that we are no better than we claimed they were. The negotiation took place on neutral ground. A space station hastily constructed between Earth and the Moon. Ambassador Deho represented humanity, along with Admiral Jinho, Counselor Borum, and General Taiyang. The Concordat sent representatives from all 17 species. The talks were tense. The aliens wanted guarantees that humanity would not become a threat. Humanity wanted recognition as a sovereign species with the right to exist without interference. You have proven yourselves dangerous, the crystalline being said. In 3 weeks, you destroyed a quarter of our military strength. Strength that took us centuries to build. How can we trust you not to attack us? Jinho leaned forward. You came to our world. You threatened to enslave us. We defended ourselves. If you want trust, start by admitting that you were wrong to attack us in the first place. The reptilian representative hissed angrily. We were protecting the galaxy from your aggression. Aggression we never showed until you forced us to. We wanted to join the galactic community peacefully. You decided we were too dangerous based on our history. Well, now you've seen what happens when you give us no choice but to fight. Is that really the outcome you wanted? The Velorn representative spoke quietly. He is correct. We created the very threat we feared. By attacking them, we forced them to become warriors. Perhaps if we had approached them differently, offered friendship instead of demands, this war would never have happened. The debate continued for hours. Then days. Both sides were exhausted, both had lost too much to continue fighting. Finally, a compromise emerged. Humanity would be recognized as a sovereign species. The blockade would be lifted. But Earth would agree to certain limitations. No aggressive expansion for 50 years, regular diplomatic meetings, and a promise not to develop certain weapons that the Concordat considered too dangerous. And if we refuse these terms? Deho asked. Then the war continues until one of us is destroyed, the crystalline being said simply. Is that truly what you want? Deho looked at his companions. Jinho, the warrior who had led humanity's defense. Borum, the politician who had tried to avoid war. Taiyang, the general who had turned Earth itself into a fortress. They all nodded. We accept, but with one additional condition. You will add to your Concordat charter a new rule. No species may be judged based on their potential future actions. Every species deserves a chance to prove themselves peacefully. The council members looked at each other. Finally, reluctantly, they agreed. The ceasefire was announced simultaneously across Earth and the Concordat fleet. People emerged from shelters looking up at a sky that still held alien ships but was no longer raining death. Soldiers lowered their weapons. The war impossibly was over, but victory felt hollow. Earth was in ruins. 4 billion humans had died. Entire cities had been erased. The scars would take generations to heal, and yet humanity had survived. More than that, they had earned the galaxy's respect and its fear. In the months that followed, an interesting thing happened. Other species began reaching out to humanity. Some wanted alliances, others wanted trade agreements. A few wanted to learn human tactics and strategies. The war had shown the galaxy something they had forgotten, that strength came not just from technology, but from will, adaptability, and the refusal to give up. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the repaired bridge of the Wanderer, preparing for a new mission. This time they weren't exploring alone. Dr. Minji had been invited to join a joint research expedition with several alien species, including the Valorn. The Concordat was changing, slowly but surely. It's strange, Minji said, looking at the alien scientists who would be her colleagues. A few months ago they wanted to exterminate us. Now they want to work with us. Fear does that, Hyunwoo replied. They learned we can't be pushed around. Now they're trying to understand us instead. Maybe that's progress. Lieutenant Sora became an instructor, training pilots from multiple species. Her tactics were studied in military academies across the galaxy. Young aliens who had been taught that war was obsolete now learned from someone who had fought in the bloodiest conflict in 10,000 years. Why do humans fight so fiercely? One young Valorn student asked her during a training session. Sora thought about all the people she had lost. Friends, squadron mates, civilians she had tried to protect. Because we understand what we're fighting for. It's not just territory or resources. It's our families, our homes, our right to exist. When you're fighting for something that fundamental, you don't hold back. Admiral Jinho retired from active service, but his legacy shaped Earth's military doctrine for decades. He wrote a book about the war, not celebrating the violence, but explaining the necessity of preparation, the importance of will, and the cost of peace. We won, he wrote in the final chapter, not because we were stronger or more advanced. We won because we refused to lose. The galaxy learned a hard lesson, that humanity, when pushed to the edge, will do whatever it takes to survive. I hope they never forget that lesson, and I hope we never have to teach it again. General Taeyang oversaw the reconstruction of Earth cities. It was slow, painful work, but humans were good at rebuilding. They had done it before after countless wars and disasters. This was just another challenge to overcome. Councillor Borum became Earth's primary representative to the Concordat Assembly. She worked tirelessly to improve relations with other species, to show them that humanity was more than just warriors. It was an uphill battle, but slowly attitudes changed. Ambassador Daeho's dream of joining the galactic community had finally come true, though not at all in the way he had imagined. Humanity was now part of the larger galaxy, but on their own terms. Respected, feared, free. In Concordat space, something interesting happened. The phrase, "even a whisper of humanity," entered common usage. It became a warning. Don't provoke these humans, don't threaten them, don't give them a reason to fight. Because when humans fight, they fight with a ferocity that civilized species had forgotten was possible. Military academies added a new section to their training. The human conflict. How humanity had defended Earth against impossible odds. How they had adapted, improvised, and survived. It became required study for all Concordat officers. The lesson was clear. Underestimate humans at your own risk. But the phrase meant something else too, something softer. It meant that where humans went, change followed. New ideas, new perspectives, new possibilities. The galaxy had been stable for 10 millennia, peaceful but stagnant. Humanity brought chaos, yes, but also innovation and energy.